going on, family? How y'all doing? This is Seiko,
It's your boy Yusuf Sadiq.
It's Baytash.
and welcome to our podcast. So, today's episode is Where's Our Humanity Part 2. And we're basically picking back up off where we left off last time, where the part one, the first part, is where we discussed the different problems, different problematic statements, the different issues pertaining to our communities. This is a continuation from that. So we're going to dive right in, right? So if y'all remember, we dropped Where's Our Humanity episode 1, part 1, back in November, right? So that was about maybe two and a half months, almost going on 3 months, right? Since then, we had a catastrophic fire happen. And everything we stated, literally everything we stated in that episode, has come to light as a result of this fire. Everything we said, right? Pertaining to, policing, right? A lack of care, right? From leaders, from community members, right? Dismissiveness, people within the community dismissing the issues in our community, not worrying about what's happening in our communities, the lack of humanity, right? So that was our episode, and now today, this fire that happened, ironically, exactly a month ago. As we're recording this, exactly a month ago, this fire happened, and everything we stated, it basically came to light. And it's disappointing. We don't like for things like this to happen, obviously, but it happened, right? It happened. And so we still, as a result, continue to see, even through this fire, we still continue to see these same people, these same leaders, these same community members recite the same lines of poetry in regards to misinformation, in regards to not a care for their communities, in regards to victim blaming, in regards to everything that's wrong with our community. They fell right into everything we said. Isn't it disappointing to see, brothers?
Yeah, it's completely like it's disheartening and it's insane. Like it's sad that it takes a tragedy to happen for people to wake up, and me and you, Sekou, we had this conversation even earlier today. The worst part about this situation is that though the tragedy happened and there was an outrage, great, alhamdulillah, we want people to be outraged all the time about these things.
All the time.
The problem is that people are only awake for like 2 seconds. It's like they open their eyes to check the time just to go back to sleep again. Where's the outrage? Because like these people are still, the victims of this fire. They still suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like 17 families in our community alone, in the African community alone, they still suffering, right? Like a couple days ago, me and my cousin, we went to visit, a family that was affected by the fire on behalf of, our organization SYO, and to give them some supplies. And apparently, they were only taken to see an apartment once since that happened. Only once. When like they were taken to see apartments, suitable apartments for them. They were never contacted again. And it's insane because like the whole like I saw the hotel room they lived in, bro. Where they lived in is so small, bro. There's two rooms. Like when you walk into the hotel room, right? It's two beds, and like there's a fridge on the side, and there's not much space. She was there with one of her kids. The rest of her kids she sent to live with a relative
And
because
they live where? They live in New York City?
yeah, like
Okay.
yeah, we went to the hotel. Like they were affected by the fire. They had
Right
to,
here in New York
yeah,
City.
yeah, they had to be evacuated from that building, 333. So we went to that hotel. Mind you, this hotel is on Cedric Avenue, by the way. So we went there. It's like the hotel room is so small. She had more children. I don't remember exactly how many children she has, but only one of her kids was with her. The rest of them she sent to live with a the rest of them she sent to live with a relative. And it's like, number one, they're not gonna fit in that room, in that hotel room. They cannot fit in that hotel room. That's number one. Number two, she was talking about like how every day, the people at the hotel staff was complaining, oh, your kids are making too much noise. Oh, your kids are running around. What do you expect? They're children. And that, that's one of the reasons why she had to, send her kids away. But like, the point I'm making is like, people are like, after the initial outrage, everybody quiet. Everybody quiet. Ain't nobody calling their representatives no more to tell them like, yo, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need to get justice for these people. People not talking about it no more on social media. Like, the few people that you see talking about it are either related to these victims or the organizations that like took the responsibility of, making sure these people get their just due. Apart from that, you don't really see nobody talking. And it's like, why does it always have to take a tragedy for us to wake up and then just to go back to sleep? Everybody just went back to their liberal mindset of just going to sleep. Oh, stay out of politics. This is exactly what's killing us. We cannot stay out of politics.
We can't. And that's a problem. Just to add on to what Yusuf said, these are some of the problematic things that people were saying, right? If you guys remember correctly, me and Betash, we stated many times some of the problematic things that were being said in our communities that lead to horrible things happening, right? One of the things that was said, right, even as recent as December, there's many people in our community who say things like, oh, I care about the community, but I'm not really into politics. This is what they say pound for pound. They say, look, God. I support the community, right? I support the community, but I'm not into politics. You know what the similitude of that is? That's like saying, I'm a superstar at playing basketball, but I don't really like dribbling the ball.
How
can you?
That's like.
Go ahead, yeah.
You know what else that's like? That's like saying, I like staying clean, but you don't take a shower every day.
Period. You get what I'm saying? These are very. I'm not calling these people foolish, but their arguments are very foolish, right? And the reason why I say that is because politics is embedded in every single level of your life. Every single level, from top to bottom, politics is embedded in it. From the food you eat, agriculture. From the bed you sleep in, manufacturing. From the money you spend, finance. From the businesses, if you have businesses that you have, economics. Right? Down to the T, every single aspect of your life today in 2022, almost every single aspect of it has to do with politics. And if you can't understand this, then this fire that happened should have made it crystal clear to you that politics actually matters. Right. It should have made it crystal clear. We have some people in our community saying things like, oh, I don't get involved in politics because it's too much. Was that fire too much for you too? 17 people dying, was that too much for you too? Let's talk about it.
Bro, it's crazy. And I'm going to say this, and I say this all the time. The youth in our community, like, especially when we having these conversations about, like, you know, systemic problems that we have and all that, we always like to say that our parents' generation, they did this, that, and the third. They didn't do this, that, and the third. And that's why, you know, we have all these problems, which is true. Which is true. A lot of the problems that we're witnessing in the community is because of, negligence or ignorance from our parents' generation, But, and I say this all the time, our generation is going to do much worse to the next generation than our parents ever did to us. The reason being, me and you, our parents' generation, like, they actually tried. It's just that they didn't have the information that we have. They didn't know as much. They were trying, but they didn't know much. You know what I'm saying? They were working with, like, they just worked with what they had. Our generation, we have all this information at our fingertips, but we choose to sit on the sidelines. And here's why we're going to be much worse for the next generation than the previous generation were for us. Because our generation is full of a bunch of self-centered, self-absorbed, apolitical fools who believe that posting Black Lives Matter on social media is going to affect any type of change. And again, I'm going to repeat what I said, on the last episode. And I'm going to say this all the time. You cannot look at a disease, the symptoms of a disease, and ignore the cause of the disease and expect any effective result.
That's insanity.
If you only treat the symptoms, here's what's gonna one of a few things is gonna happen. Either the symptoms are gonna go away and come back. They're going to go away and come back worse. They're not gonna go away, but the symptoms will remain, or they're not gonna go away, or they're gonna come back worse. Either way, the disease still remains.
No matter no matter which way you do it.
And that's what we're doing. Our generation, a lot of us, that's what we're doing. We ignore all these problems. We like to sit there and say, this is politics. Oh, I don't like politics because I'm not going to get into politics. But how can you even say things like, I'm for community development. I want the community to thrive, but I don't want to get into politics. How can you even say that? As Muslims, how can you say that? Let's even look at the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when he migrated from the migration itself. That was political.
Straight political.
It was political. Moving from one place to go seek asylum in another place so they can be able to practice their religion freely. Mm-hmm. That's not politics. That don't sound like politics to you? The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam matching every muhajir with a brother from the Ansar. That's not politics. That's politics. All the treaties that the Prophet had with the Jews that lived in the Medina at the time, which the Jews ended up breaking, which caused war. That's not politics. All the wars that the people, or that the Prophet and his companions, they waged. True, they were religiously motivated, but it's all politics. It's all politics. That's what it is.
And also, it's also important for us to understand the world that we live in and why these things are so important, right? Because you see, Yusuf mentioned how some of us are very self-centered. Everything is about me, 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 me. Nothing is about the actual community, right? Well, let's look at the boomers, for example. I'm not saying all, but many boomers, right? They'll tell you things like, y'all generation, y'all gonna have it bad. Y'all gonna have it really hard.
When y'all caused it.
When you guys were the direct cause of everything that's going on right now. You guys had the ability to change the directory of what the future is gonna hold for your children and your grandchildren, and y'all fumbled it.
Right.
Bad. And you see, when you think in a self-centered way, when you're so self-consumed into European culture, this is the result that you're gonna have. Yusuf was just telling us an example of a lady he spoke to in an Uber. This lady, and Yusuf, you could correct me if I'm wrong. You guys were talking about what? Real estate?
Oh my God. Oh
Go
my
ahead,
God.
drop
So this happened on the day of the snowstorm. That happened, I think it was a week or two ago. And, you know, I was driving this lady, white lady. She was going to Queens. And we had this conversation. She was talking about how she owns her house. I think she said something about, like, I think it was her parents or her grandparents bought the house, and now, like, she owns it. And I was like, I bet that house is worth millions now. She's like, oh, it's worth well over $1 million. And then I was like, our generation, is hard for us to, you know, acquire real estate, you know, with the jobs that we have, because everything's so expensive now. Like, we literally can't afford, you know, we could barely afford to live, you know, talk of being able to save enough money to buy a house. She said, I feel bad. Like, that's true. I feel bad for your generation. I didn't say anything after that, you know, but, like, she kept, you know, rambling on and, like, just repeating the points that I said.
And that's a slap in the face, in all honesty. How can you sit there as an elder amongst our generation, as an elder? We're supposed to look up to y'all. We're supposed to be looking up to you guys. And how can you sit there and say, and have the audacity to say you feel sorry for our generation?
She probably supported Reagan.
Yeah. What did you do to make sure that our generation would not be in this position? There was an article recently that said, me, Yusuf, Betash, our millennials and Gen Z, that we may not have Social Security when we hit 65 years old. Can you believe that? We may not even have Social Security benefits when we hit 65, 30, 40 years from now. Can you imagine? So now, if we're not going to get it, what do you think about our children and our grandchildren? This is what we're talking about. Where's your humanity? Where is your humanity? You've lost it all the way. If you are making statements like, I feel sorry for your generation. I don't care about politics. I'm not political. At the end of the day, I don't need politics. I just need to work hard. If you are saying these things, your humanity, there's a question mark on your humanity. Mm-hmm. A big question mark. Because it is proof in the pudding. You're not thinking about anybody except yourself. As long as you didn't experience a fire, as long as your family did not get displaced, as long as your family does not have a roach infested or mice infested apartment, as long as you're living comfortable, everything is A-okay. Mm-hmm. But remember, what goes around can come back around, right? Today it could be me, and tomorrow it could be you. This is what a lot of people don't understand. Personally, I would rather something happen to me, God forbid, knowing that I fought, than to be in the position that something happened to me and knowing that I could have fought, but I was too much of a coward to fight. I was too much of a coward. I was too self-absorbed. I was too self-centered to fight. Where's our humanity? When is it that we're going to wake up and smell the roses? 17 people lost their lives as a result of a lack of humanity. I'm going to repeat that again. 17 people lost their lives as a result of a lack of humanity from our city, from our clergymen, from our leaders, from our congressmen, from our borough presidents. 17 people, and guess what? Hundreds of people displaced. Hundreds of people still forced back into their apartments. Smoke inhalation in their apartments. Don't have anywhere to go. Living with relatives, as Yusuf said. Is this where our humanity is headed?
All right, so with regards to that, like, and there's more than a couple of people in the community that be talking about, oh, if we just work hard, we'll get rid of these problems, and we'll be able to work our way out of poverty, and we'll get rid of these problems, and things of that nature. What they don't realize is, which brings me back to politics, the point that you cannot stay out of politics. We live in a city where you need to work 2 jobs just to survive. Not to live, just to survive. For the most part, you have to have at least two jobs just to survive in this city. There's not much, working hard or self-improvement or whatever terminology you want to use that's gonna help us get rid of these problems. Back in the days, you could work, have one job, and with the money that you earn from that job, you'll be able to buy a house. We got brothers and sisters out here, working 80 hours a week, 70, 80 hours a week, but they can't afford to buy no type of property. You know what I'm saying? And that's a direct result of politics. You know what I'm saying? The law is changing, and inflation and the economics of it. I don't want to get all the way into the economics of it all, but the law is changing and everything is largely why we have to do these things. There's no amount of hard work that's going to get us out of this situation. And if we don't do the political work to lay down the framework for the next generation, so the next generation could thrive and not go through what we going through, it's going to be much worse for them. Because not only are they going to have to clean up our political mess, they're going to have to clean up the political mess of the previous the generation before us, like our parents' political mess. They're going to have to clean that up as well. Absolutely. And then they're going to have to also, while trying to survive in a system that's suffocating them, they're going to have to do the political work for the generation that's coming after them. So what we're basically doing is we're killing the next generation, we're killing their kids' generation, and we're killing ourselves by saying these things that, oh, I don't want to get involved in politics. Let's just work hard and everything. That's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? An army is only as strong as its weakest soldier. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of us are barely hanging by a thread. And that's not as a result of them not working or they're lazy or anything. The majority of the people in the community are hard workers. Sure, there may be a few lazy people, but the majority of us work hard. But we still hanging by a thread. Again, as I mentioned in the was it the last episode? The median income per capita in Congressional District 15 of the Bronx is $17,731. That is less than half the national median per capita.
Less than half. Not half. Less than half.
Now, the median income per household is $31,063. That is less than median income per capita nationwide. Per capita means for each person.
So in this case, each household.
Yeah. The median, like when you split it into 3, the high income earners, the low income earners, and then the people in the middle. The people in the middle in the Bronx, the households that are in the middle, make more than $11,000 less than than the middle person in America, like
11,000
nationwide.
less as a result of a lack of humanity from people who refuse to fight, people who were saying these problematic things that were pointing out to you guys, people who didn't have a care for their communities, people who were self-centered, people who were selfish. This is what caused this.
And then on top of that, you will have people that, when they see people bring up these type of issues and say, oh, stop voting for these people. These people are bad for the community. Their agenda is not going to help us. Their agenda is directly what's destroying us. They support these laws that are not good for us. When you talk about politics, there's this common, trend in the community where like there's a sentiment in the community where like people tend to look at you like you crazy. Oh, you talk too much. Oh, you mad annoying. Oh, this, that. What are you doing then? I'm actually doing my part. I'm doing my part by actually waking you ignorant fools up. Like that's what I'm doing. I'm telling y'all to like, I'm telling y'all not to vote for the people that want to destroy us.
And who destroyed us already and continue to destroy us.
You know what I'm saying? And it's sad that, it takes a tragedy like this for people to wake up. But then in the aftermath of it, you see people just mimicking and, repeating the same talking points that people have already been saying. Like people like you, Sekou, have already been saying for years now. And people like Betchaz have been saying for years now. Right? And people have called you crazy. People called you annoying. They said that you talk too much.
Do you know how many people have said in front, maybe not even in front of me or behind my back, that I talk too much?
Bro.
Do you know the amount of people who, even some of them, they say it, but some of them, when they see me, oh my God, this guy's coming around. But yet, I care more about your kids and your grandkids and your mom and your dad and your uncles and your aunties and your grandmothers and your grandfathers more than you do, 10 times. Because that's who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about myself all the time. I'm not going on Instagram and Facebook like, yeah, I'm out here in Jamaica. I'm not doing none of that. Oh, yeah, look at my makeup. Oh, yeah, look at my fresh cut. I'm not doing all of that.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that one. Look at my fresh cut.
You know what I'm saying? But you feel me? I'm not there doing that because that doesn't matter. I'm out here for the babies. I'm out here for the babies. I'm out here for the elders in the community. I'm out here for the leaders themselves. I'm not only thinking about, and yet I get words like, oh, basically like, what do you do? I remember there was a sister who told me, what are you doing? Sisters, not sister, I forgot. Sisters and brothers too. What are you doing for the community? What am I doing for the community? Lord have mercy.
That's an interesting question because, like, for you in particular, I've witnessed you, on these streets. Like, me and you were part of, Future Leaders of Islam together. Like, we were part of that organization. You were one of the people who was in charge of the Feed the Homeless project, if I recall correctly. Every weekend, brothers out there on the streets, helping homeless people, giving them meals to eat. You know what I'm saying? Was part of an organization that was part of an organization that is pretty much inactive now. That which main goal was to have a safe space for young Muslim brothers and sisters. You do all the things that you doing, with your social media where you politically educating people. You woke me up. You know what I'm saying? So, and for the most part, these people that are asking you these things and saying, oh, what are you doing for the community? The reason why they asking that is because they not doing nothing for the community themselves. It's because of the things that you're saying are basically are directed towards them. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the people where you're not talking about them, you're not saying their names, but the things that you're saying is pretty much directed toward them. They're the ones doing the things that, that you're advocating against.
Absolutely.
So they want to take away the blame for themselves and put it on you. That's why they're saying these things. Oh, what are you doing?
Once somebody says, "What are you doing for the community?" You know you got them where you want it.
And usually they say that when you criticize a politician.
Almost. And you know, it's funny because
Yo.
most of the time I criticize we criticize, because it's not only me. This is not about Sekou or only Yusuf. No, this is we the people. Most of the time when we criticize and we bring to light what these politicians are actually doing to our communities, then they want to start saying, oh, but they're doing more than you. First and foremost, I'm not a city official. I did not swear on oath, right, to serve and protect this city. I didn't swear. They swore that they are going to fulfill all of the rights that they're supposed. They swore on oath. Do you know what it means to swear? That means you, no matter what happens, you are going to try your best to serve and protect the citizens in which you govern over.
They looked for that job. They campaigned for it. They came to our communities and begged us to vote for them. They begged us and said, look, if when I get in there, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z for you. They get in there, they neglect us, and then you want to ask me and Sekou and Betaz and all the other people, what are you doing? Nah, it's not my job to go to city council to advocate for these things. It's not my job to go to Congress to advocate for these things. My job is to call city council and call Congress and call the Senate and tell them, look, this is what I need in my community, and you work for me. If you're not doing this, if you're not doing what we need, you're fired.
Period. And this is so important. So when people in the community start to doubt your work, start to say things like, oh, what are you doing for the community? And other remarks like that. Know that, and one thing I want to mention that's very important, I notice a pattern. Anyone who says these things, 90% of the time, they're self-centered people. I have noticed every single time. Because anyone who appreciates people in the community and the work that they do, they're never going to say stuff like that. They're never going to question what you do because they see it and they understand it. Yeah. But because you're so self-absorbed and you were probably a part of the catastrophes that are happening in our community and your humanity is gone, now you're questioning the people. And it's not only me. I've seen some of these people tell this to some of the most hard-working individuals in the community. What we do it for free. We're not paid to do this. I was never paid a single dime to do anything that I'm doing. Neither has Yusuf, neither has Betaz, neither has a plethora of the other brothers and sisters out there who are similar to us. They're not being paid.
Shout out GYO doing the work. Shout out Salim. Shout out Ajifanta. Shout out Kujeji. Buba Kamara.
All
we
of y'all.
appreciate y'all.
Shout out
all
to
y'all
all
brothers, man.
None of them are being paid to do this. But yet you want to question. And what's funny, all of these names that Yusuf, these beautiful brothers and sisters he just mentioned, at some point in their career or at some point in them dealing in the community, someone told them, what are you doing for the community? Yo. This is where our humanity is headed. When the people who actually want to restore humanity are being bombarded with foolishness, with foolish statements by people who are upkeeping the destruction of humanity.
Yo, it was just one time when me and you had this conversation a couple of times. It was one time when there was someone that actually asked me, why are you so obsessed with the community?
Wow.
Why are you so obsessed with helping the community? I didn't answer at the time. At the time I didn't answer. I was dumbfounded by the question.
Wow.
Because it's why would you ask me that? Why would you ask me that question? You know what I'm saying? We all have our duties to the community. We have a duty to not only ourselves, to improve our conditions, to do everything we can to improve our conditions, politically, economically, you know, anyway. But we also owe it to the next generation, you know, our kids, to create an environment for them in which they will thrive. We owe that to them. You know what I'm saying? Because our kids, those are our kids. We brought them in this world. You know what I'm saying? And until they become adults, it's our job to protect them. It's our job to teach them. It's our job to provide for them. Which also means it's our job to provide and create an environment for them where they will thrive. They won't have to face the problems that we're facing. They won't have to deal with police brutality. They won't have to deal with economic and social castration. Mm-hmm. They won't have to deal with, you know, the prison industrial complex where like young black boys and men are 3 times more likely to go to jail than, you know, anybody in this country. You know?
And to add on to that, we have people saying other things like, oh, you got to give these politicians time.
That's the funniest one for me.
We got to give these politicians time, but 17 people just died.
It's okay, trust me.
Oh,
those politicians are going to be taking their time.
Yo, it's crazy because last year something similar happened. I don't know if y'all remember during Ramadan when the Israelis was tear gassing people inside Masjid al-Aqsa during the last 10 days of Ramadan. So right after Richie Torres got sworn in as congressman, right? I was on him. Me and you, I remember we were on him. Every week or so, every month or so, we were calling his office. It's to the point like they recognize my voice. You know what I'm saying?
Mine too.
Like, yo. So we was calling him, telling him like, yo, you need to support reparations. This is, you need to support reparations. You need to support, defunding the police. You need to support this and that and the third. What is he actually doing? What's his agenda? And each time they would give us a runaround. And like I remember, I would post about these things, and
we'll tag them.
I would post about these things and like say, "Oh, Richie Torres doesn't really have a plan for Black America. Richie Torres don't support us. Richie Torres is he doesn't care." And then people will say, "He's like, oh, he just got in office. Just give him some time." What happened a month after, that happened when people were telling me, "Oh, just give him some time." A month after. Just a few months after he got sworn in. He got sworn in January. April was Ramadan, I believe. In the last 10 days of Ramadan, Israelis started attacking Muslims in their place of worship. And this is not just no ordinary place of worship. This masjid, this mosque, is the 3rd holiest site in Islam. This masjid was the first qibla to Muslims. Before Allah revealed in the Quran that we should face the Kaaba in Mecca to pray, first we were facing that masjid, Masjid al-Aqsa. We were facing that masjid to pray. Israelis were attacking Muslims in that. Guess what? When Muslims all over the world were in an outrage as what's happening to our Palestinian Muslim brothers, Richie Torres came out supporting the Israelis.
He doubled down on it too.
And then all the people that were telling me to give him time, they were all silent.
The silence was deafening.
I had a particular I'm not going to mention that person's name, but I had a conversation with someone. And when I mentioned that, when I was like, weren't y'all telling us to give him time? It was silence. Change the conversation to something else.
Yeah. I mean, these are great points. These are all great points. I mean, you're talking about the future of the world, the future of our communities. There's a lot to be said about all that. There's a lot I would actually like to say, but, it's a lot to pack into this one. A lot of these concepts and topics we're going to obviously continue to talk about because these things are current and they keep happening. But even within my own white community and the community that I have with friends of all different racial groups and identities and that I've known for almost 2 decades, from, back in the club days. I have a lot of friends that I'm still friends with, and that says a lot. But in a lot of ways, a lot of people are very apolitical, or they're very their politics are just not in the right place. And I guess that far be it for me to say, because I'm not better than anybody else, but a lot of these people, especially older ones that are older than me in their 40s and 50s, 60s, they're all like boomers, and they have boomer politics, and all the things that you were saying about boomers is true. We see it across all racial groups, because boomers had this sort of privilege, or this, because of the way things happened during the years that they grew up, the decades they grew up, they were able to do these things. I mean, my parents had me when they were like 23, 24. Had a car, were renting, half of a huge, gigantic house, and were able to do all these things at 23. Meanwhile, I'm older than 23. And I could barely do that. Most of my peers can barely do that. And if they're doing it, they're struggling. And these are people with, degrees. So it's a lot. But these boomers and these people with these horrible, ideas and horrible things that are said, and horrible politics, they contribute. I mean, they not only did the bad politics of the boomers' generations still affect my generation today, they also affect your generation. And I have some boomer friends, and they're completely silent. They're all voted for Joe Biden and Kamala. They're all dead silent as police continue to lynch black males every day. Dead silent. No reparations for American descendants of slavery. Dead silent. No George Floyd bill. Dead silent. And then I had one friend from the club message me the other day, making, not sarcastic comments, but comments about mass incarceration and solitary confinement and stuff like that. And then I just said, well, thanks to the Democratic Party. And she was like, well, both parties participate. And I said, oh, both parties participate. Okay. But you still vote for one of them. And you still support one of them. And you still never comment or participate in any conversation or any post or any discussion online that shows you evidence that they are criminals worse than the Republicans. But you're dead silent. And then it's, oh, well, I haven't been on social media. Oh, okay. So that means you're probably not informed about what you're talking about. And I love this person. It's a friend of mine. Wow. This is somebody that I've known for a long time. But they're all hardcore Democrats. Why? Well, I mean, I personally feel that having, spent a significant amount of time in that underground world, that club scene of New York City, this is a place of a lot of history, a lot of ADOS history, a lot of Freedmen history. There is no clubs, there is no house music, there is no jazz without freedmen and the descendants of slavery.
None.
And all of these things that people do now, they're all offshoots of that culture. But that culture also developed, it developed into disco. And then when disco died or was killed, then it turned into house music. But all of these things come from black music and black culture, black American culture, black American music. But you see the problems that were going on in the 80s and the 70s, these clubs and these discos and things, they were escapes from reality. They were escape. It was multiracial. It was gays and straights and everybody together, just having fun together, getting high together, drinking, dancing, or not getting high, whatever the case may be. These were escape. These were places of escape from the nightmares of every day, and rightfully so. But even that world, as corrupt as it was even then, always corrupt, it continued to get corrupted. And it could just continue to be about all of the things that throw us off course. And I'm not going to bad talk it, but when you are someone that has been in that world, has spent a lot of time in that world, you're very disconnected from politics. Yeah, of course, a lot of them can still listen to the news and follow politics, but when you're up for 4 days straight and high and in the club for 30 hours a week like I was. You spend a lot of time not watching the news and not being properly informed. And that's fine if you want to do that. I did it. I had a lot of fun. I don't regret any of it. But that means that you're spending a lot of time not being well informed.
Exactly.
And also spending a lot of time in a very apolitical, liberal, uninformed population of people that really is very racist underneath anyway, because I saw plenty of racism from, well, especially anti-blackness from all sorts of people. It was underneath, it was underneath the surface. Of course, everyone's dancing together. Everyone's having fun together. No one's really saying anything overtly. But it was extremely racist. A lot of anti-blackness. So these people now are voting for Democrats and believing everything that they're told by mainstream media. And they just going with the flow. And it's probably for many reasons. But these are just a bunch of uninformed people. And it's not just club people. It's everybody. All people in all walks of life from all worlds that, and I have lived quite a wild and open life where I've met so many people and I've done so many things. I've seen a lot, and you still see it across the board with so many people. I mean, this is how so many people think. But you see, the boomers were also extremely uninformed. They came from a generation where their parents also made them like, okay, well, you got to get up and you got to go to work. When my grandparents were, when they came from Italy, when one half of my family came from Italy and they were living in the slums or the tenement apartments on the Lower East Side on Delancey and Essex, it was horrible, of course, for all of them, but they were still white or becoming white. And you see, at that time in the early 1900s here and in a lot of industrial cities, the children 4 years old, 5 years old, they were put to work in the factories. So even their folks came from that mentality. So it's understandable, but it's no excuse. You still have to take responsibility for the fact that the political decisions you made, them boomers, affect us today. And I have boomers that I know completely disconnected. Oh, they care so much about black people. Oh, they have sex with black people. Oh, they do this. Oh, they do that. Oh, that's very nice. But your politics behind closed doors and in those polling booths, you're voting for your own interests. You don't give a shit. You're not doing anything radical, anything different, anything trying to change anything. Nothing. So boomers are very much guilty for the problems that my generation has seen and we continue to see. All of this. And even our peers, way too many of our peers. I mean, look at everything that's going on. We have too many brothers and sisters, Muslims and non-Muslims, all becoming cops, all being anti-black.
Taking the easy way out.
Doing all these things. And, I mean, like, the things that you guys mentioned that you experienced, people saying things about you. I mean, I sit here and I laugh because I knew once you guys started learning and, coming to these realizations and taking these political stances that people were going to do that because they've done it to me. They do it to a lot of people. And I can't even really comment because you guys said it all. You said you said the things that they say. You said why they said them. And you were all 100% right because if you didn't know, I would have said all of those things to you. So you see now, and I mean, this is not a struggle for me. I mean, I'm white. But these are the things that you see and these are the things you hear. And they all say it. Doesn't matter what race they are, what age they are. They will always find a way to put you down and say, oh, well, why don't you do something? And it's for all the reasons that you mentioned. Too many people. There's so much going on. There was a young brother. I don't know how young he is. He's younger than me. Muslim brother. He had, I guess he saw me talking under a thread that you posted, Sekou, about education or something, and was talking very highly of American schooling and education and all this stuff. Apparently he's very educated. I think he lives in California. He must have lived here or something. But he clearly, was very, very, he's a big fan of European culture, a big fan of like American education and stuff. And he just was saying very incorrect things. And so for some reason he was ignoring the black people in the thread. And he's black. He claimed he was African American, but I later saw an African American man, someone I follow on Facebook, ask him about where his family was from, and he was like dodging the questions. And then I saw him say something about the islands and something, never about anything in the South or in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly he's not African American. Not that I care, not that it's my business, but I'm not really sure why certain people message me, being white, and ignore the black people in the thread, and then ask me why I support reparations, being a white American, given that black Americans are owed reparations. And as an American, it's my responsibility to ensure black Americans get reparations.
And it's not questionable.
And it's not up for debate. But he was like, oh, well, you know, add me on Facebook because I care a lot about black people and blah, 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 blah. Which, you know, at the time, I guess I believed. But I followed him, and his page is filled with nothing but him going to Europe and admiring Spanish cathedrals and going to European museums and, you know, just kind of loving European culture. And I mean, as Tommy Curry and other people, Dr. Tommy Curry, has said, you know, Europe was a failed project. Europe didn't work out. And the only reason why it's kind of held on this pedestal is because it was made to be able to do that because Europeans are barbarians, and they were busy colonizing and raping and pillaging and stealing people's land and stealing people and doing all these things. And so, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the other day I was looking on this person's Facebook, and 2 times in the last month or so, he was posting about homeless people. One of the posts said, just another reminder that the homeless are not friends, but criminals that have no place roaming our streets.
Wow.
Simply giving them the right to be homeless and decriminalizing their drug use doesn't solve any problems. It only makes life more dangerous for law-abiding citizens.
Wow.
From a Muslim.
Someone.
Now, I'm not
Wow.
well versed in Islam, but I don't know if that's really how a Muslim should speak about homeless people, particularly because under white supremacy and in the West, homeless people are made. They are made. They are part of the system. They're part of what capitalism needs and what capitalism makes. But apparently because he loves European culture so much, you know, I guess he doesn't see that. I'm not sure why. And apparently he's in school. He's doing his master's. I'm not really sure what he's learned. But a little bit, it sounds like he's had a little too much of European culture. And then somewhere at the end of January, he reposts Fox Nation with Tomi Lahren on Venice Beach in California, where apparently this Muslim brother lives. And he said, they don't need more money or programs. They need prison cells. Why every time the homeless move into a neighborhood, the crime rate increases? I've seen this in New York City and California with my own eyes. Let's stop defending criminal behavior and call a spade a spade.
Wow.
Really?
Type of spade he looking at.
Interesting. So clearly this young child is uninformed, and he doesn't really have much humanity, as you say. He doesn't understand the country that he lives in, which clearly his family, you know, I don't know when they came here. I don't know when my family came here either. I mean, I know some came in like the early 1900s. But you see, I know my history and I know American history. And you don't want programs. You don't want institutional programs to help citizens, most especially drug-addicted homeless people that are causing crime supposedly, but you don't want crime so much that you want to lock these prisoners, you want to lock homeless people up.
Homeless people.
While you're prancing around in Europe and in museums with a French bonnet on your head, who, as far as I could see, hasn't even posted not one thing about Black History Month on his Facebook. I mean, it's only February 9th, so we'll see. But he's very busy standing in front of European sculptures and talking about crime and posting right wing or conservative white supremacists like Tomi Lahren. So I'm just a little confused why these types of people talk to me, but I guess he loves white people so much and white culture that he just would rather talk to white people. It seems like he kind of copies African American culture as well, as everybody does, because African American culture is American culture. But it's a bit contradictory to then have political and unintelligent stances about how society should work and how to make it better. He's not interested in making it better. I mean, he clearly is a conservative person. Conservative politics are just another form of white and white supremacist politics. All politics here in America are. It's just a matter of, how you want to approach it. Politics is really just the management and overseeing of white supremacy on different levels of government. So the right wing manages, those type of folks, very republic minded, conservative, folks. Then you got the Democrats, who are the worst white supremacists, but they're the ones that, take the tactic of wrangling the liberals, because they know the liberals are racist too, but the liberals want their racism a particular way. So they manage those racist people. So politics is just really about managing white supremacy in the United States. And so I don't know. So this person was kind of interesting. I allowed him to be on my social media, but he basically was just doing everything that I knew he was going to do. And actually everything I said he was going to do in the thread, comments which he ignored and stopped talking to. But see, I don't like engaging with black people like that, but for some reason he was only talking to me and he was ignoring everything that the other black people were saying. So, I don't really know how to sum that up because it's just weird. And these are the weird things that we see. But these are the problems that come when we're just kind of very uninformed. And that's really the best way I could put it, because this person doesn't really confuse me. I saw him coming from a mile away. I've seen young children like this. And, so I don't know what kind of Muslim that is. I don't know what kind of intellectual that is. I don't know what kind of pro-black person that is, but it's not really for me to say. But he told me he wanted to add me because I was doing, interested in helping black people, and he apparently loves helping black people, hasn't posted a thing about helping black people since I've added him on social media. So I don't know. Well, we see this all the time.
Pound for pound, these are the types of individuals that have infiltrated our communities. Mm-hmm. And, what was disappointing about what Betash mentioned was the fact that this man is a Muslim. And as Muslims, our duty is to stand up for the disenfranchised, i.e. homeless people. Mm-hmm. That's our duty.
Most particularly because, as I said, they're created.
They're created by our societies.
Why would you not want programs in your city to help people? People who actually are not really committing crime. Of course they're going to commit crime because they're homeless. And they're kept homeless. And to be honest, I would be very interested to know, and I actually think this data has been released, and I'll check it, that I'm sure we'd be surprised at what percentage of those people that are homeless in California are descendants of American chattel slavery.
Very interesting.
That he cares so much about. Very interesting.
Very interesting. And you see, these are like I said, these are the people that are in our communities making statements like these, claiming they're pro-black, claiming they're for the community, claiming they're trying to better society. How are you bettering society? By looking down on the most disenfranchised groups of people in America. Mm-hmm. I was always taught, right? I'll give a quick snippet, right? If I'm a child and I'm doing something that's very bad, who do they blame first? Now, we have some in our societies who will blame the child, but in a normal society, you would look at the parents, right? You would say, where's his parents, right? If you saw me causing destruction, the first question you'd have is, where's his mom and dad? Why is he causing so much destruction here as a kid? The similitude of this is this is the very society that we live in. Instead of blaming and pointing the finger at the most disenfranchised groups of people, homeless people, right? You actually contribute to their destruction in a way by making those statements instead of looking at the leaders and what are they doing? What is the president doing about homelessness?
Exactly.
What is the vice president doing about the homelessness? What is the House of Speaker doing about homelessness? What are the mayors? What are the senators? What are the governors? What are the congressmen? What are the borough presidents? What are the city council doing about homelessness?
Because we're seeing it here now in the city. I mean, we have homeless here, but ever since the pandemic hit, there's been, a lot of violence. I mean, this uninformed child that I was referring to, he apparently has spent some time in New York. Who knows? But his first post was about New York City, and that's even funnier, given his comments, because, homelessness has always been bad, but the violence and these crimes supposedly that have been happening, and they have been happening. They have been happening. The rates, who knows, because it's only really the police that are giving us the information, and they can't be trusted at all. But these crimes have been happening during the pandemic. People are losing hope. People are losing their homes, their jobs. And, that goes into a whole nother discussion about all the things that have been going on lately with gun violence. That our anti-black mayor, Eric Adams, and our anti-black white supremacist president, Joe Biden, and his cop VP, this is what their focus is. Their focus isn't reparations. It's not getting African Americans and poor black people the resources that they need in the city, in the country. It's not. It's about just prosecuting crime and locking people up. But that particularly, the gun violence, is another topic which we will discuss probably in the next episode.
Definitely.
Because there's a lot to be said about it. But all these crimes that people are supposedly complaining about, homeless people, this and that, it's all created. These people have been put in these places by the issues in the system in our cities, and those are all connected to politics that boomers have supported and our peers are supporting. Exactly. Nothing is really changing because of that, but we keep voting for the same people that make sure that those things don't change.
Exactly.
So everyone's complaining, like Yusuf said, about the symptoms and not focusing on the actual sickness, the actual disease. And so, as we always have to say, this is not how we're going to come to any real solutions. A lot of people just seem to be continuing to miss that point.
So with that being said, we've had a long discussion about this. This is, as we said, a part 2. It was well needed. We're gonna continue talking about these things, right? We're gonna continue talking about the things that the irresponsible things that people say in our communities. We're gonna continue talking about, where our humanity is headed, what we should be doing, and one thing I want to really leave everyone off with is, we have to start rethinking our humanity. We really have to start rethinking our humanity. We really have to start voting better. We really have to start advocating better. We have to start being involved in our community, because being involved in our community means we're going to leave a legacy that's worth mentioning for our children and our grandchildren. Because, like I said, you don't want your son or your daughter or your grandson or your granddaughter coming up to you and questioning, what did you do when this was happening? That's the last thing you want to do. I never want my son or my daughter, if God blesses me with them, I never want them to come up to me, Daddy, why did this happen? That's the last thing I want to do. So we must all collectively come together, try our best, and our earnest to better our societies and restore humanity. That's what we must do. So,
Yeah, man. Yeah, and to add on to that, let's just I don't really have much to say except for to just to reinforce what and reiterate what my brother Sekou just said. We really have to be very careful with the things we say, the politicians we support, and we have to be involved. You know what I'm saying? As Sekou said, you don't want your kids' generation to come, your kids and their generation to look at you and say, "Oh, we facing these problems because you didn't do your job." You know, we don't want that. You know, right now, what we facing right now, we basically having to clean up problems from the previous generation, and we have to.
nope.
Yeah, and we can't we can't leave a mess behind for our kids. We can't do that. As Bedside just said right now, we can't be like the boomers. We can't do that. We have too much information at our fingertips to just sit back and do nothing. We just can't do that. Stop voting blue no matter who. Stop voting. Stop falling for the identity politics. Vote for policy. Vote for policy. As Yvette Carnell always says, voting is an exchange, not a gift.
Not a
And
gift.
that's the last thing I'm gonna say regarding this.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. Much appreciated. We thank you all for tuning into our episode. Here, Where's Our Humanity Part 2. Really, really, really appreciate it. We're looking forward to you guys tuning into our next episode. It's going to be a really good one. We're going to be putting all of the resources, that we have at our disposal, in our YouTube comment section. And let's get it, man. Let's do better. Let's do better, guys.